We're now live, everyone.
Okay.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the November 10th meeting of the Fairfax County Park Authority. I'd like to call this meeting to order. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, Park Authority Board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record, as we did at our first electronic meeting. During our meeting, if you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand, and when I recognize you, please state your name. This will ensure that you are recognized and the public knows who's speaking. If you intend to vote nay or abstain on any item, we will have to do a roll call on those votes. Because each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. And following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member's voice. And we will do this alphabetically. Dr. Adu is absent and excused for the time being. Dr. Carter.
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I'm participating from my home in Lee District.
Maggie Godbold.
I am Maggie Godbold, and I'm participating from my home in the Sully District.
Linwood Gorham.
This is Linwood Gorham, and I'm participating from my home in the Mount Vernon District.
Tim Hackman.
This is Tim Hackman, and I'm participating from my residence in the Drainsville District.
Ron Kendall. Ron Kendall is absent and excused for the time being. Faisal Khan. Faisal is absent and excused for the time being. Ken Quincy.
Ken Quincy, I'm participating from my residence in the Providence District.
Kyle Stone.
Kyle Stone, participating from my residence in the Braddock District.
Mike Thompson.
Mike Thompson, participating from my residence in the Springfield District.
Jim Zook.
Jim Zook, participating from my home in the Springfield District.
I'm Bill Bowie, and I'm participating from my residence in the Hunter Mill District. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel over to Vice Chairman Quincy so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
This is Mike Thompson, and I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, it has been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Quincy. This is Bill Bowie. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video conference service. It is so moved.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Thank you, sir. This is Bill Bowie again. Finally, it is next required that all matters addressed on today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
This is Mike Thompson, and I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Quincy. Now that all the preliminary matters are complete, we can begin the meeting. Administrative items. Admin item number 1 is the adoption of the October 28th, 2020 Park Authority Board meeting minutes.
Ken Quincy, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Action item in Mason District, A1, scope approval, the Boyd A. and Charlotte M. Hogue Park, new park.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the scope for the Boyd and Charlotte Hogue Park.
That was Tim Hackman, and this
Sorry.
is Mike Thompson. That was Tim Hackman. This is Mike Thompson. I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Information items. Countywide information item number 1 is the Fairfax County Park Foundation audited financial statements. Are there any questions for Bobby Longworth and the foundation, who've done a great job in spite of really, really a tough situation? Any questions, any comments on that? Okay, thank you very much. Again, great job to the Park Foundation, the Park Foundation Board, and Bobby. All right, Mike Baird, we're going to do countywide information item number 2 is the FY 2021 first quarter budget review, Fund 10,001.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Baird here. Hannah, if you don't mind, could you please bring up information item 2? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, as you mentioned, is the first quarter status for the general fund, Fund 1001. As we look there, we see revenues this year at 0 compared to last year of $187,000. So we're down $187,000. And most of the things you hear tonight are going to be one theme in common. It's going to be the impacts of COVID on all of our operations. In this case, revenue that we would collect for our Rec Pack program, we did not have. Personnel services, you'll see personnel services is down $725,000 this year compared to last year. The main difference, of course, is lower seasonal salaries for the staff that would be working that Rec Pack program. But we also are having some higher vacancies in the athletic field staff, and you'll see that a little bit later also, the impact of that on our recovered cost category. Operating expenses, and this one's a little bit trickier. We are currently showing down $466,000, but you see a couple notes there. Some of that is really related to some timing of the PC replacements. We know we'll get billed from the county for that, and also some technology charges for the systems that we use. So we know those bills will be coming, so those will hit us. But there are some increases. So when those hit, you'll see some increases. A lot of that is related to police monitoring. Again, COVID impact at Scotts Run. We have police out there kind of patrolling that now. And then some actually systems charges that we used to code to some alternative funding sources that are no longer available to us. So those are being coded to the general fund. So those you'll see later. In returns of recovered costs, we were about $200,000 behind where we were last year. Part of that is due to some of those vacancies I mentioned earlier under the athletic fields. And some of that is just some timing of coding WPFO to some of our capital projects. So that part will catch up with us. And then we see the total expenditures and the net cost of the county year to date this year. Any questions on the general fund? Okay. Hearing none, we can probably move on to information item 3, which is the Park Revenue and Operating Fund. This is Fund 80,000 for our board members. You do have fiduciary control on this one. And there for Fund 80,000, you see the current revenue this year at $5.8 million compared to $10.3 million last year, down $4.5 million or 43%. Obviously, the impacts of COVID there, hitting us. If we move through some of the categories under administration, revenue is down about $176,000. And this is the one item that's not really related to COVID. The board made a good decision to move some of the donation accounts to Park Improvement Fund. So that revenue that used to hit administration is now hitting Fund 80300, the Park Improvement Fund. Golf is a star performer in all things that we have. Revenue you see there up $1.1 million compared to last year. So golf is the driving force, keeping the revenue fund doing as well as it can do in this situation. So kudos to golf. All categories up. Rec activities is down, and that is down about almost $1.1 million. And that is primarily due to the water mine. The water mine is a big revenue source. With the water mine being closed this year, the revenue there we did not get. But it is worth highlighting, as we noted here, that there are a few good things, even COVID times. We are seeing some growth in camping, boat rentals, outdoor programming, those things that you can kind of do social distancing that are family, fun, safe things to do. Rec activities is where, unfortunately, we're really getting hit hard. Down $4.1 million, and that is just impacting all the operations at the rec centers. I mean, people are still kind of somewhat unwilling and leery about coming inside, so we're just getting hit very hard there. That's a tough one. Resource management, you see year to date down $291,000. Again, they're getting hit hard on the programming side, but as we saw in rec activities, there's a few good things going on for them. Some of the outdoor programming and rentals. So there's a small silver lining, but unfortunately, it can't overcome the shortfall in the programming side of things. If we kind of move forward, we will go into the expenditure side of the equation. Fund 80,000 expenditures this year at $8.2 million compared to $14.3 million, a decrease of $6 million or 42%. So our revenue's down. You do see that expenditures are down also. Some of those are obviously due to COVID, but also some of those cost control measures that we really have in place now for a couple years are still helping us. Looking at by divisions, admin expenditures are down $122,000, and that decrease is the kind of the same thing at the revenue side. That revenue is being moved over to Park Improvement Fund, the donation account, but the expenditures are also hitting on that side of the equation too. So admin expenditures are down. Golf, doubles, 5 stars here. Revenue is up. Expenditures are down $100,000. So this, kudos to the whole golf team. They're doing a fantastic job. Rec activities, expenditures are down $1.2 million. And that is primarily what hurt us on the revenue side with the water mine being closed, is the savings from a lot of the seasonal lifeguard staff that we normally would have operating that facility with that being closed. And then just, monitor and operating the costs to the best that we can. Rec center expenditures are down $4.2 million. Again, the impacts of COVID and especially not having a lot of the camp programs that we normally would have. We'd have all those camps and the, camp counselors and the contracted camp programs that unfortunately we did not have. Hurts on the revenue side, but we do see the savings here. Resource management kind of is continuing the same theme. Camp programs and so forth that our RMD sites would have, they were not able to have. So the revenues and expenditures you see here came in lower. Overall, as I mentioned earlier, expenditures are down $6 million. The one kind of almost good in the bad situation takeaway is that our net is actually $1.6 million better this year than last year at this point in time. Any questions on the revenue fund?
Any questions? Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Information item number 4 is the energy program update, which we are deferring until December. Information item number 5 is the quarterly project status report with Paul.
All right, I'm Paul Shirey in the Planning and Development Division. So as far as the slides, please put up the PowerPoint for the completion slides. And while that's coming up, I'll just speak to the actual quarterly status report. This is the first one that's based on the FY21 work plan, which was approved back in July. And then we'll be working off of that over the next year. And just something to note here, and you're going to see a lot of projects coming for scope approval over the next few months, but we're ramping up to implement about $60 million in construction to start these projects over the next 6 to 7 months. So there'll be a number of scope approvals, and then we'll be doing a lot of contract activity. So again, $60 million, that's huge for the typical workload that we have. And you're going to see projects like the Mount Vernon Rec Center renovation. You'll see Patriot Park North, Sully Woodlands Education Center, the Riverbend Maintenance Shop, Hogue Park, the Capitals Inline Skate Rink, North Hill, Hidden Oaks, and a bunch of others there. So those are the major projects, but there'll be others as well. So that's in a nutshell what you're seeing out of the whole quarterly status report there. So looking at what we've just completed then, so next slide, please. Yeah, out in the Braddock District, next slide, please. So we've been doing some major maintenance repairs and replacements out at the rec centers. So this was out at the Audrey Moore Rec Center. There's several projects, but there was HVAC system components. Next slide, please. And based on this was actually bond funding, but we've replaced the pool deck lights out at Audrey Moore with LED lighting. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so over in Lee District, out at the Greendale Golf Course, there was a two-phased paving project. So we've replaced the pavement out there. It was in really bad shape due to subgrade conditions. And so with 2 projects there, we have a brand new parking lot. Next slide, please. And you can go ahead on to the next slide. That's the phase 2 of it. Okay, and out at Hoos Road Park, we had a partnership with the league there and installed new LED lighting at one of the rectangle fields out there. Next slide, please. And in Mount Vernon, as part of the resident curator program, we've improved the utilities out at the Barrett House. So we installed a new wastewater system as well as a connection to the public water out there. Next slide. And we've had a number of LED lighting replacements out at the rec centers, and most of these have been funded in partnership with the Office of Energy Management, Camby's Agassi's group. And so over the last few years, we've gotten $2.4 million in energy funding. And through this, one of the points that would have been in the energy update is that we've actually achieved 7% reduction in utility use over the past 2 years with the projects we've been doing. Our total goal was 20% reduction. So we've actually come about 1/3 of the way through the funding we've gotten in the energy program. So there'll be more to come when we update on that. But so this is the first of several of these rec center slides. So it's Oakmar that's completely finished now. And then next slide, please. Springfield, we have going on to a trail project, but the South Run will be coming up next. So this small section of trail was out of service on the the cross-county trail for a number of months, and working with the HOA in that area, we secured the correct land right situation there and improved the segment. So the CCT is back open in this area. Next slide, please. And then here's, as I mentioned, the South Run Rec Center. So it's complete LED lighting installation. And so we'll be seeing a huge decrease in our electric costs there. Next slide, please. Again, Cub Run, same thing. We did a complete replacement of the LED, or of the existing lighting, but replaced them with LED. Next slide. And we've also been doing some other major maintenance repairs and replacements. So we replaced the chillers out there at Cub Run, which have been very problematic in the last 2 years. Next slide, please. And then this was a bridge replacement at the Flat Lick Stream Valley Park. We had to get a new what's called a master file permit or blanket permit, which has enabled us to now do some of our bridge replacements quicker. The next slide, please. And nearby that bridge replacement, we've installed a new trail. It's over 1,200 feet long. This was with bond funding, and that's a really nice project out there in the Flat Lick Stream Valley. Next slide, please. Another resident curator program out at the Sears House. We installed a new water line so that facility then could be leased. Next slide, please. All right, well, that's it. So we've just completed a bunch of projects, but again, we're ramping up for major construction over the next 6 months.
That's exciting. Thanks, Paul. Any questions, comments? Glenwood?
Just like to say thanks, Paul. Good presentation.
Thanks, Lynn.
All right. Countywide D1, the initial fee proposal with presentation from Mr. DeRay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we bring up the PowerPoint presentation associated with the fee item, please? The last couple of years, we've just went straight to questions. It's an odd year all the way around, but especially so for fees. So we thought we would just real quickly go through the influences for what you see in the package right now. So if we could go to the next slide. The beginning of the fee proposal package, as you know, always starts with sort of what our major revenue drivers are, what indicators we have of and consumer demand, so forth. All of those things are negative this year. Consumer price index is almost static. Unemployment at the time we were putting the package together was record levels in our experience. Revenues from tax revenues from retail sales, an indicator of consumer demand in the county, way off. The COVID consumer change in consumer consumption item that's in the University of Maryland's COVID index, down in the negative digits. Consumer confidence off. All of these things were negative. Next slide. In terms of sort of COVID impacts on recreation trends, it can really be summed up by these two bullets. Out was anything indoors, in was outdoor activity. So the focus of developing a proposal for your consideration this year really kind of focused on what we could squeeze out of niche opportunities we had in fees that relate to our outdoor facilities. Next slide. So what that meant was no opportunities for rec centers. So there's nothing proposed for rec centers. And then in terms of outdoor opportunities, the largest one, golf, was addressed by the item that you approved in September out of cycle. And that took care, for the most part, what we saw as opportunities in golf. And then the bulk of the package that you're looking at tonight is really fee areas in our managed parks. They make up about 75% of the projected revenue that's in this package. Next slide. So all told, that gets us to an annual incremental revenue estimate, which is the value that we use to measure the size of the package every year. It's pretty close to what we did last year, almost virtually the same. So we were happy about that. Next slide. And in terms of key dates, the December meeting is your board action to authorize advertisement. And then on the 20th of January, we have our public comment meeting, which, like all meetings, will be virtual this year. Next slide. That's the summary. So we're here to answer your questions if you have any about the proposal.
Any questions from anybody at this point? Okay, Nick, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, on to chairman's matters. We had a great event last Tuesday. The bond approval was fantastic. Kudos to all the staff, all the board, and especially the citizens and the residents of Fairfax County. 72% approval rating in this type of situation is unheard of. So that is absolutely fantastic, and again reaffirms, the residents' commitments, and they absolutely love their parks. I've had a number of conversations in the past couple of weeks from people that said that they don't know what they would have done the last few months if they had not been able to go to a park and just hang out and walk a trail or just sit around and have a picnic. So again, thank you very much for your support. Happy Veterans Day to all those who are serving and all those who have served. We certainly appreciate your service. The nation is certainly in debt to you, and thank you for your selfishness. And hopefully we'll have a number of veterans that would take advantage of whatever we have available to them tomorrow in the Park Authority, particularly around rec centers. So hopefully they'll take advantage of that. So if you see a veteran, please thank them for their service. Had an opportunity to record the remarks today for the Ellie Doyle Awards, and Maggie did the same. So Maggie put a lot of pressure on me. She got dressed up, so I had to as well, at least from the waist up. And we went through that. So staff's doing a great job. Maggie, you, Cynthia, doing a great job on that, and look forward to that event on the 20th. And this is our last board meeting before Thanksgiving. So in advance, happy Thanksgiving. Be safe out there, wear a mask. With that, I'll turn it over to Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kirk Kincannon, Director of the Park Authority. So on the note of the Ellie Doyle Awards, just a reminder to respond to the email that you get related to the virtual award ceremony by using the SurveyMonkey RSVP form. And those RSVPs are due by Monday, November 16th. Those who
we are actually going to have the privilege, I hope, of having one Mr. Michael Thompson in attendance this year, because there's not going to be a Nutcracker Street sweep.
That will be an honor. Just a reminder, make sure you get those in by November 16th. And then a note related to the Park Foundation and the good work that they've done, in particular sticking with it during the COVID, as all of staff have. Park Foundation had two major gifts and a grant totaling $550,000 that were delayed due to the COVID pandemic. One, a $120,000 gift was received this fiscal year and not included in the FY 2020 financial statements presented this evening. So continuing the good work, Bobby and her team keep building and expanding that circle of giving for the Park Authority. And then I would like to reiterate congratulations to the board and all those involved on the passage of the park bond, as you said, sir, in particular the community for their tremendous support. 72.39%, I believe, was the actual to the decimal, is my understanding. So thank you to the public for their support. That allows us to continue our renovations and upgrades and taking care of what we have related to this National Gold Medal Model award-winning system. And that is all, sir.
Thank you, sir. Linwood? You disappeared. I can't.
Did it again. Wrong button. Save
There we go.
assessments. I'm getting old. I have very little to say. I want to kind of toot my own horn just a little bit. And since I won't be seeing you before Thanksgiving, and my birthday is the day before Thanksgiving this year, I'm turning 60 years old. So happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Linwood.
You made it.
Thank everybody and pass.
Cynthia?
Linwood, you're just a child.
Cynthia?
Greetings. I don't have anything in particular, but I did want to thank Paul Sherry for his report and for the work that was done in the district.
Very good. Mr. Quincy?
Well, I'll just repeat the fact that the 72% favorable rate for the bond proposal indicated as you say, the love the residents have for their parks and the confidence they have in the Park Authority. So we can all pat ourselves on the back.
Good,
and
good.
Have a happy Thanksgiving and have a happy birthday, Linwood.
There you go. Jim?
Yes, I'd like to just say that the success on the bond issue, I think, largely goes to the Park Authority staff from the bottom up, meaning that when I've enjoyed the parks, and I haven't sampled all of them, but they're well cared for. So those folks who are out there on the ground, creating an environment where people can enjoy rather than criticize, I think is key to our success, the Park Authority's success with regard to the bond issue. So with that, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and be safe.
Thanks, Jim, for those comments. Kyle?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Maggie?
Well, hi, I'm Maggie. I just want to say once again, it's so wonderful to see everybody again, even though we're on the computer. And I look forward to hearing all of the great stuff at the Ellie Doyle Awards. And also, please, please, please be safe on Thanksgiving. You may want to hug your grandmom, but just be safe. All right? We'll see you next time.
There you go. Mike Thompson.
Thank you, sir. A couple things. First, I want to thank folks for the ongoing help at Chapel Road Park as we work with staff to figure out some of the issues there and ways that the community can take more advantage of that. I truly appreciate that. Happy birthday, Linwood. And to what Jim said, I think, and I guess to what you said, Mr. Chairman, while I think folks on this call and this video meeting care a great deal about the parks, I think Jim's right. It's those folks at the ground level. It never ceases to amaze me how many issues get resolved truly at not only at that front desk, but when somebody's out on a field and just asks one of our folks for help. I think it has a tremendous amount to say about Kirk and and what he's done. And I will be honest when I say that the number of positive comments I get is far greater now than it was, say, 8 or 10 years ago. I think that Kirk, you've also done a good job helping folks understand the value and importance and looking for creative solutions. So I want to thank you for that. And just to note, since our chairman brought up the Nutcracker, I will say creative solutions are always a good thing. And the Burke Civic Ballet was able to pull off, in partnership with the JCC, a reimagined Nutcracker so that all of those young ladies who are seniors this year and would have otherwise lost their final Nutcracker of their lives, that all those ladies and so many of the other dancers were able to participate. And I just, a shout out to everybody who's looking at creative ways to help all these kids avoid losing some of those key memories. And I hope that we can all keep them in our prayers and keep thinking of solutions for them as well. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, sir. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Tim Hackman. I'd like to specifically call out and thank Judy Peterson and her staff, as well as the development staff, for all their work, and also specifically the community presentations which they did, which I think really helped to foster awareness and support for the bond. So thank you for that hard work. Also, we just found out this past week that Catherine Blackwell, who was the acting manager at Colvin Run Mill, will be leaving the Park Authority and joining the National Park Service in Pipe Spring National Monument, Arizona, which is on the border with Utah, a beautiful part of the country near Four Corners. And but she really stepped up in a big way to fill Mike Henry's shoes, the longtime manager of Colvin Run Mill, who retired in December. He was not, his position was not filled, obviously, with the freeze and COVID, and nor will Catherine's be for the time being. So there's some pretty big holes that are left right there now. But in any event, I wanted to recognize her, wish her well on the record. So thank you for that. And then finally, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Tim. All right. Anybody else with anything? Cynthia?
Yes, I was remiss in not thanking Judy Peterson and everyone who's doing such a great job in helping us to pull together the Ellie Doyle Awards program. So thank you, and more to come on that. Hope you all are joining us. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, thank you again. We'll see you all on the 20th. If we don't see you on the 20th, have a safe and very restful Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much and wear a mask. With
Thank
that,
you, Mr. Chair.
adjourned. Take
Good night.
care.
Good.
Good night.
Thank you,
Have a good
everybody.
one.